Recognize the Hazel Green volleyball team and their state championship run that they made. I was able to get down and watch you guys in the regional, and the state championship game was electric, and you guys kind of was rallied the whole student body, and it was really excited to watch. So the board has a resolution, and I'm going to read that. Each board member is signing it. Pass this down for you guys to sign. And we'll be giving a copy to your principal and your coach. And we also want to recognize you individually, too. So this is a resolution, whereas the Madison County Board of Education wishes to recognize and congratulate the Hazel Green High School volleyball team and coaches for becoming the 2016 6A Alabama High School Athletic Association champions. And whereas the Hazel Green High School Lady Trojans volleyball team, due to its determination, talent, and team play, finished its regular season with 56 wins and 10 losses overall. Whereas the Hazel Green High School Lady Trojans volleyball team, due to its determination and skill, qualified for the state tournament after going undefeated and winning the Super Regional Tournament in Huntsville, Alabama on October 22. Whereas the team members' hard work, determination, and performance resulted in a 3-0 quarterfinal victory over Blunt, a 3-1 semifinal victory over Daphne, and a 3-0 title match win over defending 6A champion Spanish Fort on October 27, 2016 in Birmingham, Alabama. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Madison County Board of Education extends to all members of the 2016 Hazel Green volleyball team its sincere congratulations for their outstanding performance and example of sportsmanship in achieving the distinction of 6A state volleyball champions for 2016. Further, the Madison County Board of Education challenges the team members to continue with dedication and enthusiasm towards their future education and career paths by using the skills and ethics learned as part of the Hazel Green High School 2016 6A Volleyball Championship team, adopted this 15th day of December 2016.
Congratulations. Do I have a motion to pass the said resolution?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
I'd just like to congratulate you and say that we know in Madison County that we're not able to put the kind of money into sports that we would like to. We know you've probably all encountered a lot of personal expense, but this just shows what we can do, and we're very, very proud of you. And I didn't have anybody playing, so I'm really more proud, I guess, than Miss Bates.
Well, I like to say, I remember when somebody said, you need to go to a Hazel Green High School volleyball game, and I was like, okay, sure, I'll go. And I didn't expect to see what I saw. It was amazing to see the determination, the teamwork, the perseverance, and then going down to the state and watching you all perform. As a dad, to see that, it made me proud. I know Ms. Coach Hughes, excellent work, what you did with these group of young ladies. Also to see you all, some of you at the National Honor Society, to see that you all not only are working towards excellence in athletics, but also to see that academically as well, just made me proud to be your board member, to be there, and congratulations again.
So at this time, we will all come forward, and Mr. Curry is going to call them up individually to kind of recognize one at a time, and they'll come up, and we'll all congratulate them and then get a picture together.
Ms. Coco Hughes. Ms. Susan Giles. Ms. Macy Bowell. Congrats. Ms. Gracie Weller. Elizabeth Carter. Ms. Presley Cox.
Kayla Penberg. Miss Lauren Lassiter. Kendall Markham. Miss Tiara Porter. Miss Tyler Rising. Miss Brooke Sanders. Miss Catherine Smith. Miss Claire Walker. Miss Olivia Ray. Okay, you guys kind of all come to center in front, and we'll get some of you tall ones in the back. Okay, you got me some.
They're pros. They already know exactly where to go. They've done this so many times. All right, make sure you can see me. Okay, on the count of three, everybody say repeat. 1, 2, 3. Repeat. Nice.
Go Buckhorn.
Congratulations.
I know, exactly.
Another one.
It's good. Thank you.
Just cannot wait to take that to work.
There we go.
Hey.
Hey.
Look at that big move up now.
How you doing? All right.
Y'all want to move up? Move on. You Baptist?
Could you just clarify? I'll know you need to vote. Never mind.
Hey, Priscilla, the 17th and the 22nd? Okay. Before we get going, I do want to kind of add in, when I recommended approval of the minutes, I just approved one of the minutes. We also had minutes from the 17th and the 22nd. So I'm going to go ahead and recommend approval of the minutes for the November 17th and 22nd also.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the other dates available for approval? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right. Okay, one of the, make sure I've got, where we're gonna, all right, so just to update on a few things. We got, this week is a big week for our students. It's the end of the first semester, and we have exams for our high school students or midterms, depending on how the class runs today and tomorrow. Some midterms were done earlier this week also. So we've got buses running, in early afternoon times for the high school students and running again for everyone else. And so it's been a great first semester, and we want to just thank everybody for what they've done and the work they put in to our team and to our board and coming in. And so congrats to everybody for half the year down, and I want to wish everyone a safe and Merry Christmas. On one of the things that's kind of come up the last couple weeks has been the talk of graduation rates in the state of Alabama and the investigation from the Department of Education. And so just kind of wanted to give you guys, and some of you guys requested this too, but just kind of an update of where we are in the graduation report. We're not affected by this essentially, but figured it's a good time to just kind of talk about where we've come from the past few years, and to be able to allow you guys to kind of answer any questions. So this is just kind of an informational item or an update on our parts. This is our graduation update report. There are 6 different definitions or categories that we have by the state. There's a graduate, and that's a student who completes all the requirements for a state-approved diploma. And we also have categories for no-show, a category if there's missing records from students, where if we're not sure, if they've completed or not. We have an official dropout, where the student actually fills out the paperwork and drops out. These are for a 4-year graduate, if they don't graduate in 4 years, but they're sticking around for an extra 5th year. We have to count those as not a graduate, and they're classified as still enrolled. And there's also a category for a completer, where they finished the years of school, but they didn't complete all the requirements. And you can kind of read some of the more detailed discussion of that, and I sent this to you guys, that you can look into and ask if you got more questions about that. So our graduation rate has grown steadily over the past few years, and there's been 3 main factors to that, besides our people being great and awesome and all that kind of good things. But the graduation exam was eliminated in 2013, so potential graduates no longer had to meet the requirement. Now, there wasn't a huge gains in that, not that what you might think. Some think, if that was a 20-point difference. That's not the case, but that did allow more students to graduate. But also, internally, I know in Madison County, we had an increased focus on record keeping. When we found out, once we tracked down students, and if they were in another school before, they may have been classified in one of the categories as missing records. So we spent a lot of time looking for those kids and found them, and that's helped. And now there's flexibility on how students can kind of earn the credits and those kind of things, and we're getting into more of that now. For our graduates over the last 4 years, you can see kind of how the percentages just started to climb after 2012. And this is kind of a more detailed chart breakdown of that graph. For our graduates, starting from 2011 and 2012 was at 76. If you look to the right, to the column as we go right from there, you'll see all the other categories. You can see there's 6% no-shows for both of those years. There were 2 or 1% of missing records. Some were withdrawn. Some, we had 10 and 11% who dropped out. The still enrolled means they were still in our schools. And others completed the credits, but they may not have passed the graduation exam, that kind of thing. So you can see the completers kind of decreases once the graduation exam kind of rolled off. But it climbed sharply from 76 to 85, 89, 93. This year, 2016, these are last year's graduates, so those records are incomplete. We're still going through, and you can see some of those are still enrolled, but we're cleaning up some of the records in that report. We still have a little bit of time before that's due on there. This is yes, sir.
The dropouts, I noticed it just steadily declines, which is great. What do you think the key component behind that was? Is there some kind of dropout prevention program we initiated or something? Or?
Well, I would like to say we made it more difficult for students to do that. It was kind of an added focus of, I think part of what kind of spurred that is there was a Parker report that talked about just how the Alabama economy is affected by graduates. When I was inducted, Mary Scott Hunter's kind of plea to me was in 2 years to get your graduation percentage above 90%. That was kind of our focus, our thing. It wasn't NAEP. It wasn't, it was get your students graduated. So, when I was in my last semester of teaching before I became superintendent, I had a student come up to me that had her dropout form, and it needed my signature to turn in the books or whatever, and I just kind of refused to sign it. I said, we're not going to do it. You're going to wait 3 days. You can bring it back to me then and kind of see. And she was upset and was mad, and we ended up kind of talking things out, and there were some issues. Got her with the counselor, and it was, kind of ironic. That was in November, and then I got to shake her hand and order a diploma the next spring. She finished there, and so it's really been, I would say, the effort of our folks to kind of, make it where it's not easy to quit. We recruit you, and we, bring you back and try to, and and I think maybe some of our career tech programs of kind of getting kids to where if they can stick in, they can be, they can see that it gives them more opportunities of jobs. We're trying to increase our co-ops, things like that. So some had to drop out to go to work. We're trying to find ways where kids can kind of work and go to school at the same time. So I think there's multiple reasons for that decrease there. This is the graduation rate by school. This is just graduates. It doesn't have all the other categories on there. But you can see some of the growth in there. I do know Chris Shaw at Sparkman High School from 14 to 15, a 6-point jump. This is the far right column from 87 to 93 is a huge jump. But he said to me it was, almost all of them were because of record keeping. They found where those students transferred and they really weren't tracking them appropriately. And when they made the effort to go track those students down, they found they actually did graduate where they moved to. There was just, it takes a lot of effort and time to do that, but it's, that's one of the things so that the record keeping is what we kind of focused on there too. So,
What makes 2016 incomplete?
Tim, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Okay, so the class graduates obviously in May, and typically around late October, early November, the state will request schools, they'll give schools an opportunity to kind of clean up their data, okay, from that cohort that just graduated. They backed that up this year. I suspect they pushed that out later because this, investigation maybe was going on. I don't know that for a fact, but it came out much later this year than it has previously. But it's just, it's an annual thing that the State Department of Ed, allows school systems to kind of go in and update their information before it, becomes kind of their final graduation cohort. So it will be final sometime, I'm thinking late January, early February timeframe is when it will be official. So.
And that is, we're going to allow for questions or comments. We can kind of scroll back through any of the data there. Any other questions or?
Well, I'd just like to verify for everyone how we reported and I know they looked at Birmingham City. We did no false reporting, I would like to hope. And
That's correct.
that is correct, good. I'm glad to hear that. But, and I know there's comment about is it an occupational diploma for children who have an IEP? And I noticed that Dr. Bice came out in an article and defended what he did. As an educator, what he said made total sense to me. So what is the big deal?
Well, the big deal is, I guess, in spite of what he said, in spite of my personal beliefs, and would be very much in line with what you're saying, the U.S. Department of Ed disagrees with that. So they're saying that should not have counted as a regular diploma because the standards, the way that I understand it, the standards that make up the courses that children took to attain that diploma didn't meet the same standards as was required of everybody else. And, then, you can read the news articles as to when that was communicated to the State Department and their, whatever happened with that. But, to my knowledge, those diplomas are not going to be, I'm not aware of them being voided or anything like that. I mean, they were awarded by our school system, and I guess unless we receive direction to do otherwise, I mean, it is what it is, But that's what the problem is with the AOD diploma.
And Mary just got these numbers, and I sent them to you probably 10 minutes before the gavel hit here, so you have it in your inbox. But I think
We've had 4 since 2014. We're going to do 4 AODs. And those were students who were already on the AOD track when the other diploma options became available with the state approved. So past 2014, we didn't award any grants. So like the 2016 graduation numbers that you have do not include it.
Okay.
And in that same article that you mentioned, Mary Louise, that talked about credit recovery program, did that impact our numbers at all?
Yeah, we're not really sure where that came from. It was mentioned in the state board meeting, but it wasn't really clarified. And so it's, one of the things we're, always looking at our credit recovery program and making it robust and updating it. But it, that kind of got thrown in, but it really, credit recovery is a thing approved by the state. If a student fails a class, there's a way to get that credit. They can take it in the summer or during the semester, and so it didn't really affect any of the graduation numbers.
Well, it's sad when we just lump everybody into one group and make it look like everybody in Alabama misrepresented their numbers. That's my personal opinion. It's not worth very much. That's my opinion.
Would there be examples, in reference to the article, would there be examples of credit recovery programs that are not robust? So is that why it was brought? Is there a standard for credit recovery?
Is it up to each system to determine their own credit recovery?
Well, each system has to submit a credit recovery plan to the State Department of Education for approval each year. So we have an approved plan for how we do our credit recovery. So, and there's pretty much there's sort of a template, the state uses the system. There's a little variation everybody can have, but there's a basic template. Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you, guys. As you review that, if there's any other data you'd like or any further questions, feel free to let us know. All right, Carrie, do you want to give us an update on the Hazel Green boiler situation, and then you can introduce our friends from Croy?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
If you'll get up to the mic there, and they can hear you streaming too.
So we can get to all those people that are sitting in the back of the room.
Well, I was singing the mic earlier and nobody responded, so. Anyway, the boiler update. Hazel Green, I'm sorry, I'm somewhere else. Hazel Green, we finished, we installed the 2 rental boilers. They're in place, we popped everything in, everything's fine. It's working well. The day after we installed them, we had 145-degree water running through them. We did have, or since we installed them, we have had 5 leaks out there. And it's not just a little leak. We have to take the backhoe out, they dig it up, they find it, and luckily, we haven't had to cut water but once or twice on it, but we still, the building having a different system upstairs and a different system on what is the west end and also part on the east end. The section that's not heated is the section in the middle, so it stays warm, fairly warm, even without heat of its own, standalone heat. But everything's up and running great. The boiler's been certified. Engineers have checked off on it, and it's working just fine. But we do expect, just so you'll be aware, and I'll let you all know by email, that we'll have another leak or 2 this winter. We just expect it to happen. That pipe is deteriorated. It's almost 25 years old, and it's just in bad shape, and it just can't hardly handle it anymore. So we need to really look at, come back to you the first of the year and look at options of what we can do to get rid of that boiler system, because these pipe, they're not going away, and we'll have this problem every year in the heating season. Also, when we get into the cooling season, of course, we don't get as many complaints when the cooling season and that system goes down. But it has not the same piping system, but it's put in the ground at the same time. It doesn't have quite the wear and tear on it because it's cooled instead of heated. But it'll also go down sometime during the spring. So this is going to be an ongoing problem, and it's just been getting worse every year. But at this time, we're pumping good hot water, and everybody's happy, and it appears to be working great.
Carrie, did we ever find out what caused the boiler to fail?
Well, we've had, and Dan's been out there with the insurance adjuster quite a bit, matter of fact. I'll let speak on that in just a second, but basically, we had a leak inside the school, so it released the water in those 4 classrooms. We have makeup water. It wasn't making up water fast enough for the amount of water it's losing. Even though it's the same size line, when you put it through a pump system and you're pushing it through the building, you're creating a pressure, so you're bringing a lot more water out of the system than in. And then the boiler did dump. When the pressure built up, it dumped like it was supposed to, but at that time, the boiler had already heated up too much. And everybody's got a different opinion, but basically, the age of the boiler, at this moment, there appears to be no fault of the boiler other than it just went down. And we do have 3 safety systems on it. The last safety switch is for it to dump all the water out of the boiler so it doesn't explode. And a boiler is a small device that can get, we've had a boiler misfire one time, and it blew a hole in the ground that's big enough to put a Volkswagen in. So it's nice to get rid of these systems anyway. And like I say, this system's about 25 years old. Do you want to say anything about what the insurance adjusters have told you?
So Kerry, the leaky pipes had nothing to do with the boiler failing?
No, the leaky pipes underground did not, because they leak at such a slow rate. Not an issue.
To clarify what Kerry said, what's above Kerry's head is what leaked at Hales Green. There's 163 water running through that now. One of the valves, one of the connections to the valve failed, dumped about 1,300 gallons of water in those 4 classrooms. And as Kerry said, that water's coming out at 12 PSI, and it's being made up at street water pressure. So water got too low. The fire department shot the outside temperature of the boiler with a thermal camera at 800 degrees. The engineers were out there today, said, well, that's probably low. They looked inside and steel had turned blue, and they said that usually doesn't happen until 900 degrees. So they're in the process now. They took down all the safety systems. They're taking them back to test them to see why. They're the same opinion we are. They're 23 years old. The question is, are they going to certify that it can be repaired, fixed, and whatever, or that it has to be replaced? We have talked to them already about the problems with replacement and what direction we need to go. And from my understanding of risk management, they've agreed whatever money we may get, they don't care how we spend it. They won't pay for the new system because it's an upgrade, but they will give you what it would take to make it whole now. So that's kind of where we are. We had engineers from Birmingham and Chattanooga and Travelers. We've had people from Alabama Risk Management. We're working hand in hand with them. They're already on board to leave the rented boilers in place through March so that we'll have heat. And then at that point, they'll give us some kind of a dollar figure that says, hey, this is what we can do to help. That's kind of where we are.
We have given all of our bills to the church adjusters, so at this time, hopefully they're paying all those bills, and also for the rental of the boilers, like you said, that we'll have to March or April.
No, they don't pay, but this is an end pay.
An end pay? Yeah.
In other words, we'll submit all of our bills to them that we pay. They'll take our deductible off of it. And then at
Which is $5,000?
And at some point, when all this settles out and they've talked to everybody they possibly can about, subrogation and all those other insurance terms, they will cut a check that will come to Miss O'Bannon. But, it's a drawn-out process, so we're eating the cost of everything as we go.
Until final bill.
Until everything is finalized, and then we get reimbursed.
And we're looking right now, by the time we get out of our rentals and everything, we'll be somewhere around 160, 170,000. So, pretty big bill.
These pipes that are at risk, I know you said they're underground. What about the pipes that are above?
Those are, the ones that are at risk, before we've had the leaks, are underground. We, and for somebody like yourself who might have been around the last 20 years, Riverton.
Thanks.
No, because of the knowledge, because of the knowledge. Some of the other new board members perhaps have not. Riverton Intermediate School, we had a leak a week at Riverton Intermediate School inside the school there in the late 90s, early 2000s. And finally, we just went through and we actually replaced every valve in that school. And that's what happened here, is just a valve went off for one of these fan coil motors. And so we have 2 valves per each unit, so there's always that possibility that it could break and release the
About 8 years ago, we went back and replaced the faulty system that wasn't working, to make sure we don't have hot water dumping on our kids.
So replacing the boiler, if they said you can replace with another boiler, that does not include the piping. That is just the boiler system. The system on the second floor of Hazel Green does not is not a pipe system like on the first floor, correct?
That's correct. The second floor system is what we call a VRF.
Okay.
It's a variable refrigerant flow. It's not like what we have in, anyway, it's independent, more like a heat pump system. That's what we have on the second floor. It doesn't require a boiler or a chiller.
And if you did that on the first floor, it wouldn't require the piping would be eliminated at that point. 'Cause
That's
it wouldn't be-
correct.
Wouldn't be used.
Be
The pump.
abandoned, just be abandoned underground, but if we decide to go back with a boiler, all the exterior piping and everything, Kerry, correct, would have to be dug up, there'd have to be concrete cut. I mean, it would be a disaster.
It'd be monumental.
Monumental.
My speech impediment. To do that, we had the situation at Owens Crossroads. They had, same thing, we had some major leaks overhead. God's blessed it, there was always on a weekend or always late at night. But we had some major leaks there also. And then we, like we did 2 years ago, replaced that system down there with VRF. And it's just getting to the age where some of these systems, we need to replace the lines and the boiler itself.
How many of these systems do we have?
We have, I believe, 4 in place, 5 in place right now that we'd have to replace, 5 schools.
But
So some of them work fine, and there's no reason to think they're going to be faulty. And this is a common system. If you go in the Arsenal, if you go to UNA just put in a multi-million-dollar system, and that's how they're heating and cooling a lot of their buildings and dorms. They put in one single package plant, boiler and chiller, and they pop everything underground up through. Basically, this is just like a radiator. And then you have a fan behind it, and it just blows out. So it's a good system. It's a good system. It's still viable. It's just not
It's
so
just got
good.
some age on it and time, and the pipes are old and.
Yes, exactly.
So do you think it would be cheaper, I mean, just from a pure dollar standpoint, to fix the boiler or to buy a new system?
Well, the new system's going to be more expensive, but if we're going to look at a long term, even if we replace the boiler, then if we had to go and start replacing the pipes,
I
absolutely.
meant the whole scope of the project.
Oh, yeah, the whole scope would be better just to go ahead and replace the system now with a VRF system. Absolutely.
What would be the safest thing for the kids that are there every day?
A VRF.
Because there is the possibility that if that had happened during a school time, that a child could have been injured.
There is that possibility, absolutely.
And a VRF holds none of that possibility.
Yeah, we don't run any of the high temperature, high pressure lines. When, things that we do now, even if we know we're going to have an implement weather one day, and part of our protocol is we'll go in and we cut off all of our boilers that morning. Even if it's 20 degrees outside, we're cutting our boilers off. And the reason we do that, we keep pumping the water through and it keeps cooling it down. And we want that water 80, 90 degrees by the time we get kids in school and stuff. Because if we ever did have some situation where wind blew through a building, we don't want to be dumping hot water, and we'd be dumping 80-degree water on a child instead.
Kerry, we replaced all our lost materials, you know, with teachers and any technology and all that. They've all been made whole. We'll get our money back, but we took out of stock and different things, books and technology and stuff. So teachers have, when they came back, their room was actually cleaner when they left. Everything had been stripped, clean, painted, waxed, the whole works.
Pressure washed.
So-
That was the nicest 4 classrooms in the building.
Water was really hot water.
Yeah. At 12 PSI.
That's right.
We want to make sure our teachers didn't suffer any from this catastrophe.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, next, Core Engineering. Andy Summers is going to speak, and he brought his engineer with him. And they did our shapefile maps for us. Great company. They do a ton of work for everybody. Huntsville City, Madison County, they do it all. And they're going to give us a quick, simple rundown. And I say simple only in the fact of simple to them. And they'll tell us what we're doing with these shape files and what they're used for. And also, you'll see in some of the information they give out in just a minute, this is some work we need to also improve these maps a little bit more as we get more time. What we have right now are the maps with the information we gave them. They did gather information from, of course, our iNow and our routing software, and also they went and saw the Madison County, Huntsville City mapping system. They also went and pulled every parcel, and it was there 160,000, is that roughly right? 160,000 parcels in Madison County. So they did their homework and did it very well to bring these maps together. And you'll see the maps sitting over there against the wall. But that's just a PDF version of them, and they're about to show you what the DOJ and LDF can look at. Go ahead, Andy, if you want to.
You prefer maybe if the lectern is okay here?
They can hear better.
Yeah, if you're at the lectern,
Then
they
people are
can,
watching on
there's
video,
people
so.
streaming live. So yeah, if you can come to the lectern, that'll be good.
As Kerry mentioned, I'm Andy Summers with Croy Engineering. Kerry contacted me 6 weeks ago to get some supplemental information to the Department of Justice concerning the zoning boundaries for the potential new Madison area high school. The data that you all had given them was paper map supported with demographic free and reduced lunch information supporting that. So you have the data basically in one tabular form, and you have a paper map that you'd find in a regular Rand McNally Road Atlas and the other depicting the school zone boundaries. So the GIS component of that basically melds those two together, so you have an interactive database map interface to where you can query the map for whatever specific type of information you're looking for. The socio-demographics and the free and reduced lunch in this case, and making sure y'all have the right mix to meet the DOJ requirements for how you're going to split this, potentially split the Sparkman school zone with the new school. So that deadline was November 8th, so we tried to rush together and get that shapefile information. The shapefiles were just the, what's a good way to describe it to you, the coordinates, basically the boundaries to give to them, so the DOJ could take this and lay it on top of their information and essentially audit the racial makeup mixes and the free and reduced lunch mixes and make sure that what you're telling them supports the data that they have. So they can lay that back on top of their information that they may gather from census tract data or however they gather their socio-demographic data. I'm not privy to how they do that. But that's the audit. That's when they come back and they're able to check on what you all done. So that was our first deadline. We had about 10 days, 2 weeks to pull all that together. So we kind of rushed together and pulled, as Kerry mentioned, data from several sources, Madison County Public Works, the Tax Assessor's Office, City of Huntsville, to pull all these pieces of information and cut up the school zones the way they're supposed to be. We went back and quality control checked them with the specific legal descriptions of the school zones and got them as close as we could at the time to exactly what you presented to the DOJ and clean it up as best we could. So the data that you had presented before matched the shapefile data that we gave to them on the 8th of November. So that was the first rush, and that was basically the emergency part of our work and why we did that. So I guess that explains to you why the presented data that you had before didn't work, that you didn't have the smart interactive component to it, the check to it, and that's what makes GIS such a useful tool. And that's how we became involved with the project. We produced this, I guess, along the wall, you've got the paper maps. We've got the elementary school zones as they are now. We did elementary, middle, and high school zones. We did the 2 different potential school zone versions to split up Sparkman and the potential Monrovia area high school. And then we've also got a school board district map that we've produced for all of y'all. Now, moving forward, as Kerry mentioned, we downloaded all the parcel data from the Cliff Mann's office at the Tax Assessor's Office. So we've got all of the parcels into one system. We know exactly which ones are in unincorporated Madison County, which ones are in Madison, which ones City of Huntsville. We take the arsenal out, so we just focus on what your jurisdiction will be with all of your schools. So the next step, and what we hope this is going to mature into, is that you all will have an interactive database that will help, that you all can maintain. Perhaps it's questionnaires that you go at the first of the year that we can with a little bit of background information, we can assimilate all the data that you may want to do to help you plan where to build new schools, where to do school bus routing, where there's all sorts of things that we can do just depending on how sophisticated that y'all want to get. But you'll have, if you get requests for a new school, that you can go in and you can divide up very quickly and look at different iterations of school zones on the fly and see what the socio-demographic will be to meet your DOJ requirements. So we'll be able to look at those very quickly and help y'all through that process.
You mentioned the parcels was unincorporated, incorporated. What about Wheeler National Wildlife Refuge? Is that how is that located? Is that in our district, or is that in no district since it's a reserve, or?
I mean, there wouldn't be.
Because down there in Triana, we've got some areas.
Right. We've got. It gets foggy down in there because the Wheeler merges in and out and moves all around. There's some triangle parcels that y'all serve. But, the specific parcels are the specific way the land is divided. So even if you had a Wheeler parcel that was unincorporated Madison County, nobody would physically live in that parcel. So I think we removed everything with Wheeler Wildlife Refuge out, didn't we, Maggie?
Okay. All right,
Yeah, I think we just removed that out and just considered it like
Because
we did.
people can't live there anyway.
Right, and we consider it like we did Redstone Arsenal.
Yeah.
Basically, or the TVA property that's along the river.
Okay.
That it would fall into that same category. Anyway, this project can kind of go, it's kind of a work in progress. This is kind of where we are now. The next steps is we're waiting I'm sure there's going to be comments probably back from the DOJ. We're waiting to address those. We'll send back whatever information we need to help get those new zone boundaries for the new high school, or the potential new high school taken care of. Assimilate the additional data that you all may want to look at, gather what you've got in so we can make the maps smarter, if you will, so you can query on all these different parameters that you want to look at. And then if we get the system up and running, we could see something like maybe an annual maintenance where we come in, City of Huntsville may annex parcels, we take those out. There may be a new subdivision of a big cotton field, so you've got all 40 tracks where there were one, and so those are 40 potential new houses with students that you need to serve.
Yeah,
So-
I think last week, there were, I think, 4 houses annexed into Madison City, so we get those all the time. We'll just get noticed, these 4 residences are now in the city, so it is tough to keep up with.
But it's a tool that we can make as as sophisticated and as helpful as you want to, depending on what attributes and information that you want to put into it. If you've got time, if you're of interest, we've got a little subset of the data that we brought in. If there's interest, if we can cut that out. If y'all want to look at it, we can
Let's see it.
kind of just show you a little bit of kind of what we did. I want to recognize Maggie Satterfield's I call her the GIS black belt. I'm just the talking head. Maggie's the one that does the work. So.
Okay, so just to kind of give y'all an introduction, GIS stands for Geographic Information. It's not necessarily a software. It's almost like a computer design software. Anyone can make it. So what we use at Troy is ArcGIS, and it was developed by Esri. Historically, it was used in the environmental field to make better informed management decisions, especially with natural resource conservation and management. But in the past 10 years, we've seen a huge explosion of GIS being incorporated in civil engineering. We see the CDC use it. Oh, thanks. Oh, okay. The CDC uses it. The U.S. Census Bureau uses it. Pretty much every major federal agency uses GIS. So technologically speaking, it's people are running with it. So it's good to go ahead and implement it and catch up with the technology of the age, so to speak. So I've cropped out a couple parcels just for a demo. I didn't want to use our whole data set because 162 parcels, that's a massive data set, and I didn't want to keep y'all waiting here while it draws. So this is the typical base map that I used on the maps that you guys have that we submitted to the DOJ, and that's something that any user can choose depending on their preference. So I'm going to turn it off for the sake of argument. So these are the demo parcels, so to speak. Just to give you an idea of the capability of GIS, one of the basic functionalities is what we call a spatial join. So the tables that you guys looked at that had the graduation rates? It's in a tabular format. We have the capability of putting that into a geospatial format. So if you guys are interested at some point, we can combine that with the data that we already have and rock and roll from there. I mean, we're early in the stage on this, so the directions and the possibilities are endless right now, and
So,
that's the best place to be.
I'll interrupt. The 6 classifications that you had, the no-show, the graduate, the dropout, the still enrolled, you could pinpoint each one of those per parcel and per household.
Per student?
Yes. So you may see a hot spot of dropouts. They're all focused in on this neighborhood or a particular area, and we need to do something over there and know what's going on in that neighborhood, and there could be some value to that information.
Okay, so this is just the basic parcel area from the tax assessor's office. So what I did, I wanted to go in and I wanted to do a spatial join with the parcel data to see, if someone calls Carrie or Sharon and wants to know, hey, this is where I live, what school is my child supposed to go to? Then she can go in and she can search for that specific address. She can click on that particular feature, and an attribute table will pop up, and it'll tell her what school that child specifically would be zoned for. So, just to give you an example of that.
But not only could you have that, but you got by parcel, you could have the age of the children that are there, the grade that they're in, the elementary, middle, high school zone that they're in, if it's free and reduced lunch, if there's any other data that you want to keep in there. You've got household by household, exactly whatever classification you want to add in, the graduate, dropout, still enrolled, et cetera.
So does it go where the parcel of where the house lies and where the zone is drawn?
Yes.
So, Carrie, we have those, I'm looking at Whithaven right there in the top right-hand corner for the win, I guess, playing Hollywood Squares. But in Whithaven, they are in, their zone they're in is not the zone they're in. It's the exit of their subdivision. So could you look at I think Whithaven is a road, and there is a whole subdivision called Whithaven?
The subdivision's called Whithaven.
Is there a Whithaven Drive?
Whithaven Road,
Okay, so can you search by road, like Whithaven?
If I have that, if I didn't crop it off the parcel, I
I
can.
got you.
But if it's not in that specific extent for this demo, then I
Okay,
can't
well, I'll
do it
let
right now.
you go
But
ahead and drive
I
this.
am glad you addressed that, though, because that was something for us when we're looking at the boundaries for the parcels where they are split in half. We need to know what standard you guys go by. Is it the front door, the back door? The beginning of
Sometimes it's the whole house and the whole parcels are
Okay.
in a different zone, so it's
So,
weird.
and that's something that, we will address, and we will get that perfected.
And let me say that the zoning maps that we did now for DOJ were to get that information and match what was presented before. And one of the things that we want to do when we have time is come in and clean up those map anomalies. And I know that there's some stuff around the boundaries, that there may be a subdivision that, like you mentioned, empties out on the street. It makes more sense to go to them to go to this zone, even though we're shown they're in this zone. So we do want to go in and address all those anomalies around the zone borders.
How often is the data, you say you can go in and look at a house, and you can see how many children are living there, how many children are on free and reduced lunch, blah, blah, blah. How often is that data updated?
Well, some of that would be, it just depends on the source that we would get it from. Some of that, the parcel data we get is from the tax assessor's office, and they update their maps, I believe, annually. So, I would think this would be a once a year,
Based on,
while school's out, May, June, July, do an audit and update it for the next year. And what I think we'd probably have to do is gather the data that you have in-house on your on your free and reduced lunch, and come in and put tags on those parcels if we can relate that back to an address. So the different data, the specific data you're looking for could potentially come from different sources. And there may be data that you want that you need to send out a questionnaire, as you do for registration first of the year, and you ask specific questions to help you plan for whatever it is, bus routes, free and reduced lunch, whatever attribute it is that you want to be able to plan for and accommodate. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. The census
So
is in
did
10 years.
did all the work that you did that we sent to the LDF and the DOJ?
Yes, ma'am.
Was it based on the student enrollment, or was it based on census data?
What we sent them was specifically what's called the shape file. It's basically, we sent them digitally where those boundaries were.
Well, I actually sent it, so I want to make sure what I sent was what I was, because I had to load a reader to the computer, and
Okay.
yeah, I got your disc and I held it like this and said, "Oh my goodness, I don't know what to do with this." So you actually sent it to me, and I sent it to them, so if you'll explain to me what I sent to
What
them,
was
that would be
What was
helpful.
on the CD? I'll start, and Maggie, you pull me out of hot water if I get into it here. We sent the specifics that went over were the shapefile information. And what that is it's the data that defines that precise school boundary.
Okay.
So if they're working off of Esri, they can, the ArcGIS program, that platform that Maggie mentioned, they can open that up, they can import that data, they can import that shapefile, onto their data set that they have. And they've got that whole database that shows what their racial mix is and what their free and reduced lunch is.
Which is
Then they can
the
lay
Excel
that on
information,
top,
right?
and they can take that shapefile, and they can look, and they can say, all right, they're saying 20% free and reduced lunch, or whatever it is that they're looking for, and ours is just showing 10%. There's a that's, if I read it correctly, that's the intent of what they want to do, is basically verify that the zone maps you gave them match the data that they have.
And I sent everything that was on that disk, plus all the Excel spreadsheets and everything, so, and I've gotten no contact back from them that said they had any problems opening anything or anything,
Okay,
so.
wonderful.
But
So-
there is no census data. We didn't send any census data.
No, ma'am, no, ma'am.
And that
It's,
was that
what we're trying to do is give them the smart version of that map, so they can lay that in on their data. And
They
can
choose the
can
data
auto-
they
verify
want to
their
overlay on.
data versus your data.
They have the census
So remember I was telling you, we're merging data and maps. You basically did that and sent that information to them. They basically have a data set over here that they wanted to merge with your map and compare it to their data. So you sent them the map component, they're laying on top of their data to make sure it is what you say it is, within reason. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so the software is great for instances like these when you have spatial data. Instead of looking at a bunch of Excel sheets and trying to figure out what you're looking at, you can turn it into a layer, and you can overlay the layers on top of each other. And then from there, you can make your analysis and make your decision. That's really the whole point behind geographic information systems. So it just goes back to the possibilities of any data you want to include, anything you want to see. It's really endless. As long as the data is out there and it has been collected and we can project it geospatially, then the possibilities literally are endless. Going back to my demo, so we selected this parcel, and you can look at the information, and we call these attributes. And every single feature has its own set of attributes. This is pretty much what you would see in your Excel sheet, but it's feature linked. It is linked to a spatial feature, and that's pretty cool. You know, it's pretty cool to me. I like this stuff. So if a parent who lives at 142 Charge Drive, looks like their name is Bart and Dana, you know, they call and they say, I want to know what school my child's supposed to go to. My child's 8 years old. She's in elementary school. Where are we going? Well, right here in the attribute table, we already have Harvest Elementary because we've taken the parcel data and we've joined it with our school zone data. So now it's just a matter of a click of a button to make a decision, essentially. And we can do the same thing with the demographic data as well. So the same parcel, we can click on it, and the demographic data, we got this data from the U.S. Census Bureau, and this is what I downloaded, and we used geographic blocks, which is the smallest unit that you can use in census data. So if we overlay that on the parcels and we perform a spatial join, then we can see that within this census block, there are 35 people that live within this block, and there are 13 households on that census block. So, and it's not just population or households, it can be anything. It can be age, race, mobility, disabilities, how does someone get to work? How long does it take people to drive to work? It really can be anything. And I know you guys mentioned bus routes too. This would be a perfect software to plan bus routes because we can log all the points. We can pinpoint all the students that need to be picked up by a certain bus. We can tell the program that this is the starting point and this is the end point. Which route would be the best route, which would be the most efficient route, the most cost-effective route to pick up all these students and get them to school on time. And the software can analyze and spit those answers back out to us. So it's fantastic overall for making extremely better informed management decisions.
And to sum up, we'll be working with Carrie to and welcome the input of anyone who's interested to make this whatever it is that you want it to be, however it'll be most useful to get this information and use this tool to your benefit to make your decisions that you need to help expedite this.
Is it discern between ownership and rental?
That we could, that data, it would be how we gather the data. You'd probably have to do, because what we've got now is parcel data from tax assessor's office, and that just shows owner.
Correct.
Yeah, it would take another data point, maybe, with that questionnaire, do you own or rent?
It would be worth it, because I know in my neighborhood, there's quite a few rentals.
Yeah, I think and I'm working off the top of my head, the first thing I could think of is a questionnaire at the first of the school year, because we're probably going to gather some data that you're going to, we're not going to have, does a student need a bus ride? There's no source of that. Are they going to be a bus rider? Or are they free and reduced lunch? So you'll have to, if we get into that, we'll work with you guys to try to develop some kind of questionnaire out front that we can assimilate that data if it's something that's useful.
I would assume that utilities would be the best tool to determine ownership versus rental. If somebody's renting a house, chances are the utilities are going to be in the renter's name versus the owner's name.
You're going to have a parcel owner from the tax assessor's office, and if that name doesn't match the student name, but you get into, is it a family member, is it a guardian? And you probably the same thing with the utility bill. So there's, even if we're matching parcel owner to where the student's listed an address, I don't know if it's going to be that clean cut. It could be I think you're going to have to specifically ask rent or own. But there may be a data source out there that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head.
Normally, the zoning classification will kind of give you a hint towards whether if it's a subdivision where they rent or not. And that's just been in my experience working with zoning geospatial data. We've normally been able to look at it and draw a conclusion from there.
So I guess, Matt and Gary, so we came up with our zoning proposals without this tool. Is there any plan to go back and revisit the zoning since we have this enhanced tool now?
Well, this brings up a lot of things we didn't consider. One of the, we made it very clear going forward, what we're basing our zoning on is students in our school right now, in our school. Kind of the conundrum and what, we didn't have the tools to do this, but there's a lot of homeschool students in this area and private school students. And, there was a student that went to one of our schools that didn't live in our zone, and we're, redirect them. And I think this could aid in all that. But what we never attempted to do, what we always said was, do you base on the students you have, or do you base on the population that resides there? If you balance it on that, and, 10% of the population is not enrolled in public school, they're in private school or homeschool, you've got to make your decision on how you're sorting your students, and we decided to do that by that. Now, what I expect is fully expect is that it will be brought to us. The expert GIS people from the plaintiffs will bring in the census data. They've already probably overlaid it, and that's what they did in Jefferson County. They overlaid census data, the under 18 or under 19 population, and they did that. So how that affects our zones, we don't have that information. So that's what that's why it's going to be interesting to kind of see how it comes forward. And
the census data goes off of trends and not necessarily you're going off a more accurate way because you're going off exact, precise student enrollment. But the census data may have a big retirement home in the middle of it. Nobody goes there. Well, you throw out the demographics with that.
That's right.
Right there. So.
Yeah.
Ms. Burke, we also, now that talking about this, when we put these numbers together the last time, you have teachers' kids, you have kids that are homeless. We had a pretty large volume, I believe it's about 35 students that were out of zone. So they're not picked up, and they won't be picked up on their census map because they're not in that zone, but yet they go to that school. So, and I don't know how the DLG accounts for that.
Did we identify?
We
those?
accounted for it because they are in that district right now going to that school. So we
No,
did.
you
And we
didn't.
identified them by name.
They'll use that data off that Excel spreadsheet that you
Yes.
sent that shows those kids go to that school. But they understand you have a
Minimal.
policy based on
That's right.
your original court order that allows employees to bring their kids. They're aware of that.
Correct. And that's why we said, when we presented those zone lines, that, with the previous board, is that we were very aware that, with looking at this in more detail and getting an opinion that, we fully expect the zone lines to shift a bit, depending on that. So we expected that. We gave it our, what we thought would be the best thing with what we had. So it's, and even still now, if I had to go based on census data or based on what our enrollment is, I still think using our current enrollment is the most accurate way, because we're still going to have a high, population of homeschool students and private school students. There's private schools, right in our school district in that area. So
What software did we use originally to draw the
yeah,
car?
we used individual bus routing data to get. So we picked individual roads, and we had the kids' information routes on there through iNow, and we were able to get their free reduced lunch and their racial makeup. So we actually, it was painstaking. So kind of how she just clicked and it gave that, we had streets drawn out, and we would, and by bus route, it has those students listed there, and we could sort it by there. So as we consider different routes or different zones, that's how we separate it up. It's basically kind of preloaded and click and drag, and and that's why we could import our data that we had, and this system is a little bit easier to manipulate, a little bit quicker results. That's why if we're going to try new zones with the zoning committee, it usually took a day to kind of get that result back.
Anything else we can do for y'all this evening? So I hope this has been informative and helpful to all of you this evening.
Yes, it's been very interesting. Maggie, you're not the only person who thinks it's pretty cool.
Great.
Very good. Appreciate the opportunity. And again, Carrie has my contact information. I'm open anytime to, if there's something specific you want to discuss, my door's open. Please feel free to give me a call, send me an email. Like I said, Carrie knows how to get in touch with me. And I look forward to working with you all and, making this a more robust tool and something that's beneficial to your school district.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
Can I ask
Yeah.
a question? Does anyone in your organization work with school systems to create the plans like they created internally? Or do you just support with the demographic piece?
I apologize. I don't feel like I understand.
Basically, could we help? Would you consult with us in trying to help us figure out? Could we use Maggie's black belt to basically say, well, what do you think? Kind of look at this to create a best. Are you asking that?
There's two, as best I can tell, there are two different sets of expertise, the demographic piece and then the GIS people that sit and look and study school systems and say, okay, if you need to move 100 kids into this school and you need to move, like they look at capacities and all those things. You guys would handle the demographic piece and you don't handle that side, correct?
We could certainly play with the zone boundaries, look at them, and provide expertise that if you wanted to have a school that has you got the budget to build I'm just throwing numbers out, 1,000-student school, and how do we do this, and how do we draw a zone boundary that hits it? I mean, it becomes a matter of basically taking those shapefile data and working the zone line around to hit the mix. And that takes all the politics out of it, and this guy doesn't, or this gal doesn't want to be in that school zone. But is that...
No one within your group is looking at the factors we have to look at on the legal side to say we have to have these racial percentages, or we have to do this. We have to look at the green factors that you have to look at in desegregation.
Not at the present time, no, ma'am.
Okay.
We're looking specifically at what was presented.
I just was wondering what piece to the puzzle you guys were fitting in.
Okay. I'm sorry it took me so long to get that through my dad's
Well,
head.
I wasn't asking the question.
No, it's probably me. So.
But one point, what you guys do have, though, is a familiarity, I hate that word because I can't say it, of what databases are available to overlay onto these maps that we
Absolutely.
may not have access or be aware of.
Absolutely.
Y'all
And-
have a bigger library of data points that you can use
Absolutely,
on
and
your
then
shared files.
also where there are holes in it, and if there is some data that's not available, what you may have to get through a questionnaire or survey of your,
So you have a different view, because all we've ever looked at is the data that we always look at.
There are data.
I believe, though, that if we're requested, and we request them to look at, whatever, someone looking at it and say, well, we're 100 kids short, or maybe we're 50 kids short, minority, whatever, they have the capability to easily move those lines in that boundary much faster by far than we could. We painfully take one at a time out and look at it. And they can supply the information. I think we just tell them what we want. I think we can get those numbers. I mean, it's too.
yeah, that shouldn't be too hard to do.
The data's out there and it's available. We're kind of like a conversion. Throw it all together, we can display it spatially. It's spatial database.
Except it takes the painful part out of Carrie's job, correct? Which really eliminates all of the joy.
Give it more work, it gives them more freedom to do more work.
And also, we want to be of good value to you, as if there's data that you can collect internally and there's resources that you have internally, we don't want to reinvent the wheel with anything we do and take advantage of what you have also without going out and grabbing something that's not of good value. So I'll throw that out there as well.
Well, thank you both very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Wish you all a Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, it is Christmas.
All right. I recommend approval of the financial statement, payment of bills, and cash reports for October of 2016.
Motion?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I want to remind everyone, Mr. made a great point that the check register, the expenditures is on our website. Once the expenditures are approved by the board, we're required to upload those. So check registers are available prior to the board meeting. Sometimes the finance chair reviews those in the past. Sometimes they review them every month. But it is available on the website. And if you have any questions about any of the months, please feel free to contact me and we can make those available for you. But it is on the website.
Thank you, Ms. Havana. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right. I recommend approval of the revision of the Madison County Board of Education Policy 5.11.E.2 concerning the sick leave bank.
Motion.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Ms. Page, Ms. Rucker asked last time if there was a piece that the sick leave bank committee would look at because it was, I believe, 6 calendar days. You would ask about that. I met with them yesterday, and they appreciate that you guys are looking at this already and make this change. They've already corrected their guidelines to go along with what this change in policy was, so they've already corrected theirs. We're just going to republish their guidelines with that, so it says working days on theirs too.
Thank you, Mr. Kubik. Any other discussion or question? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right. I recommend approval of amendment to the August 2016 minutes.
Motion.
Second?
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right. I recommend approval of the loan request for Hazel Green High School concerning band uniforms.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or question? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Recommend approval of the Hazel Green High School easement for wastewater treatment plant as attached.
Motion.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Any questions for Mr. Wilkerson? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Ms. Stowe, I figured you'd bring up the last lagoon there.
Well, Well, you know, at my age, it's hard to remember.
You have been here a while.
In the past 20 years.
All right, I recommend approval of the lease agreement between the Madison County Board of Education and the Hazel Green Volunteer Fire Rescue Department for the location of a fire station on the campus of Hazel Green Elementary as attached.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right. What? Are you opposing?
No.
Okay.
A fire department? No. Please
Well,
put out a
that's
couple
been a
fires.
long while
I
coming
know.
right there. We glad to get that one done. I recommend approval of the following contracts for services as attached.
Motion.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, I recommend approval of the following personnel items and addendum as submitted.
There's a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those, any discussion or questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right. And I recommend approval of the unique situation student transfer request, and we may need to go to executive
Yeah,
session.
I think we are, we're going to consider a motion to go into executive session to discuss more than one student issue. There's letters A and B. Do you have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion and a second to move into executive session to discuss student issues, individual students, so not anything that should be. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We will return to vote on the issues we're discussing that are specific to individual students. If anybody'd like to hang around or go start my clock. No. At this point, we'll move into executive session. I believe we may need, yes. I couldn't remember if she was Dr. or Mrs. I don't know why I can't remember that. I think because there's a Dr. Stovall at the hospital. Where would you like to go?
A small conference room.